We are 1 week removed from the Super Bowl, and I figured no better time to put out my updated quarterback rankings. You guys will see the tier list. We'll talk about it. We'll rank the guys in the tier. Let's hop into today's video. All right, so we got our tier list here from number 1, elite, great, good, starter, meh, and backup tier. Yeah, there are backup quarterbacks pretty much on this list throughout, so let's get them in there. The worst quarterback on this tier list filter that I could find, Zach Wilson. Not a guy that's going to be a starter anytime soon. Tyrod Taylor. I think some of these just go without explanation at this point. Bailey Zappi. Yeah, I think I'd rather Zappi than Tyrod. We're not going to get too much into the logistics here. Aiden O'Connell, backup level quarterback at this point in time, without a doubt in my mind on that one. Will Levis, backup level quarterback. Tommy DeVito, this guy might be the worst quarterback on this list. I love Tommy DeVito. I love Tommy Time, but the guy at this point in time, it's like a third string quarterback. I think Daniel Jones is like a real high level backup at this point in time. I'd take him over Will Levis, as would I Deshaun Watson. But again, the guy at this point in time, very clearly a backup. Sam Howell as well. Howell or O'Connell? I don't know. This is a debate for football junkies, which, don't get me wrong, I am, but at a certain point we've passed a certain level of football junkie. Let's throw Flacco in there as well. That is the backup category. We don't need to go too in depth with it. These are guys that are pretty clearly backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, let's go to the meh tier. Justin Fields. Justin Fields is in the meh tier because it seems every coach he has doesn't trust him to throw the ball, yet we still haven't seen a full run of Justin Fields. I'd love to see Fields get some real legway, some real run, some ability to play out a full season somewhere other than Chicago where he's running around for his life. But we're just not at that point in time yet, unfortunately, for the guy Justin Fields. I'm also going to put Russell Wilson in this tier. I'll put him ahead of Justin Fields because Pittsburgh picked him ahead of Justin Fields, and I thought Pittsburgh did the most with what they could have with Russell Wilson. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't amazing, but this is where he belongs. JJ McCarthy as well. I think I'd rather go into next year starting McCarthy rather than Fields or Wilson, just on the chance that McCarthy is going to be good. But at the end of the day, we saw the guy play one preseason game, looked pretty good, had some dots, college champion, but at the end of the day, at the NFL level, what do we really know? You know, I'll actually put him behind Russell Wilson for that exact reason. What do we really know? Michael Penix Jr., I'm going to put him actually above Russell Wilson. I saw Penix play 2 games. He looked pretty good. Looked like he was doing some more dynamic stuff out there than Russell Wilson, that is for sure. Derek Carr fits into this meh tier. He's probably at the top of this tier, truthfully, if we're being honest. The guy led the top offense for like the first month of the NFL season, and then everything came off the rails for the New Orleans Saints. But in terms of the quarterbacks that we've listed here, Derek Carr is at least a serviceable kind of player. Ant Ritchie, it pains me to do this, but he's got to be in this meh tier at this point in time. The guy has all the athletic tools in terms of size, arm talent, strength, but mentally, IQ wise, it's just not fully there. He doesn't read the football field well. As well, the tapping out on a 3rd and goal, the leadership qualities, that's a real question for me. I'm also going to throw Kirk Cousins in this tier. I think I'd put him above Ant Ritchie, but I can't put him above Penix, right? Atlanta clearly went to Penix for a reason, and the offense looked better. Post Achilles, Kirk Cousins, as Kirk Cousins was already strictly a pocket passer guy. This Kirk Cousins struggles to get enough burst to run a stretch play. It's a fall from grace, but Kirk Cousins is that meh tier. I think that's it for the meh tier, though. Let's go to the starting tier, and I want to really preface on the rankings now. Bryce Young. Bryce Young is a starter. How good is he going to be? We don't know. Towards the end of last year, especially the last month and a half, 2 months, I thought we saw some really good glimpses from Bryce Young. He had Carolina in competitive games with both the Chiefs and the Eagles, the 2 teams that played each other in the Super Bowl. That is a really good showing from Bryce Young. The mobility was there, the decision making got better. Dave Canales really working out the kinks in the receiving core. Not that great. Leggett, Thielen, David Moore. So if Carolina can get some better weapons, I think we could see Bryce improve even further. I'm going to put Tua in this tier. I'm going to put him above Bryce Young. I think at this point, Tua is just a starting level quarterback. I don't think that anything that we've seen from him should dictate otherwise. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's consistently in the playoffs. I think now that the Patriots have competent coaching, money to spend, they're going to be better than the Dolphins next year. Tua's own head coach, Mike McDaniel, kind of realized the limitations of Tua last year and tried to make him a check down merchant and was like, let's get Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle some yak, Jonnu Smith. You don't believe me? Go watch the tape. It'll tell you the full story there. Next, where is he? Trevor Lawrence, the Prince. 22 on these rankings. You know, it pains me to do this. You guys know I'm a Trevor Lawrence supporter. I believe in the talent, but what we've seen, we can't put him any higher than this tier at this point in time. We just can't. We're about to be 4 years, or are 4 years going into year 5 into this career. I do think with Liam Cohen coming in, we could get a better version of Trevor Lawrence with Brian Thomas. And there was that stretch where, yeah, to close out 2 seasons ago, he got into the playoffs, had that comeback win against Justin Herbert, was 8-3 to open the next year. But other than that, it's been pretty meh. But because of that stretch, we will move him up to the starter tier and just the potential that he overall has. Geno Smith, this will be quarterback ranking number 21 for those keeping track at home. Geno's got really solid arm talent. Seattle was a very pass-heavy offense, so I think that inflated some of his numbers just because they quite literally were just not running the football with Ken Walker. But Geno Smith is a solid starting level quarterback, but to make the playoffs with him as your guy, even with a roster that's as decent as Seattle's, with good defensive players, good head coach in Mike McDonald, good weapons in JSN, DK Metcalf, Ken Walker, you just need some extra dominoes to go your way with Geno as the QB. He's fine. He's serviceable. He's a starter. He's a great bridge quarterback for what Seattle's doing, building the foundation of this roster, getting ready for a quarterback, but he's not going to go out there and win a Super Bowl at this point in time. Drake May, I think Drake May is a starter at this point in time, and some of the rookies you're going to notice I'm a little bit harder on at this point in time, but Drake May was good. He was fine. He was solid. He was okay towards the end of the year. He wasn't doing enough to win games, but in New England, that was kind of a tall task. He showed a lot of flashes of being a great quarterback, but he wasn't consistently there. Love the mobility, love the size, but Drake May, based on last season, just falls into that starter tier, as does Caleb Williams. The guy was solid. Took the most sacks in the NFL at 68. Some of that's offensive line, some of that's holding the ball too long, but we did again see flashes of the mobility, the play extending, the ability to throw on the run. That primetime game versus Detroit on Thanksgiving, what he did in the second half of that game, again, the flashes were there. Can he put it together for a full game, a full season, a full month? That is what we'll see coming into this year. He'll be on his 3rd offensive coordinator already, just going into his sophomore season. But I do think there is greener grass coming ahead for Caleb Williams. Aaron Rodgers. I think I'm going to take Aaron. If I was to go into a season next year and they were like 1 season, 1 quarterback, who do you trust? I would take Aaron Rodgers over these other guys. 1, he finished out the year with the Jets pretty strong. His counting stats were solid. They were kind of comparable passing numbers to Josh Allen when you really take a look at it. And I do believe that it took Aaron a little bit longer to fully heal from that Achilles. We saw him at the end of that season, that game that they had versus the Jaguars, where Davante Adams popped off. Aaron started being a little bit more mobile. Aaron's had the IQ, the pre-snap ability to diagnose a defense is way higher than anybody we've listed thus far. So I'm still taking Aaron Rodgers. While he's not at his best, I still think going into an NFL season, he's a top 32 quarterback, enough to be a starting level caliber player at this point in time. Next, we got Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, this is a guy who I had high expectations for, and I'm starting to just reel it in a little bit on Kyler. I think he's one of the best escape artists in the NFL, a play extender, absolutely, but consistently good as a thrower, I just can't say so at this point in time. I think that there's a lot of weapons there in Arizona, and they had an opportunity to be a playoff team this year, and really his play is what let them down. Hopefully, he starts taking things a little bit more seriously, mentally, comes in stronger as a leader next year, and gets this team to the playoffs. And an unpopular opinion that it's going to be with some people is Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is the top of this starter tier, but really what I saw those last two games from Darnold, the lights were on the brightest. The Detroit and the Rams just absolutely bodied him and made him see ghosts again. It was Jet Sam Darnold out there. The second the pressure got there, like how the pressure was there in New York, this guy crumbled like a cookie that you sat on. It was just not a good showing from Sam Darnold, and it stuck with me. Is he a starting caliber quarterback? Absolutely. Could he go out there and get you 4,000 yards? Absolutely. But it needs to be the perfect situation like Minnesota for him to be a playoff team. And even in week 18, when you can get that 1 seed and really close the door and be like, hey, the NFC runs through Minnesota, he folded. And then in their first playoff game in which they were favored, he folded. At the end of the day, Darnold showed you his limitations in the big spot. Now we move to the good tier, and I believe that this is quarterback 15. I think Bo Nix, top 15 quarterback in the sport. Bo Nix, some people are going to be happy with this. Some people aren't going to be happy with this. It is what it is. I think Bo Nix is a solid quarterback. I think he's good. I think he has the ability to consistently lead a good team to the playoffs. That's what I kind of view this tier here. If you got a good roster around these guys, they will likely get you into the playoff mix. What can they do with it? I don't think they're Super Bowl level quarterbacks based on their play last year going into this year, but maybe one day they can get there. Bo had incredible mobility compared to what I thought he was going to have. The IQ has to be there to run a Sean Payton offense. Everybody knows that. It was just those extra special plays to push you over the hump that the great to elite quarterbacks give you. I didn't see enough of that from Bo Nix. He was good. He wasn't great. Dak Prescott, number 14 quarterback in football. Listen, when Dak's healthy, he'll give you 4,000, 4,200 passing yards, get you to 30, 35 plus touchdowns. And if the team around him is good, it'll be a 10, 11 win team if he's healthy all year, and you'll make the playoffs. But what do you do when you get there? Probably lose round 1 or 2. That loss to Green Bay, where the Cowboys were the 2 seed, hosting at Jerry World. I thought that they were going to come out of the NFC. I truthfully did 2 years ago. And to have them fumble the bag that bad, it told me this is not just a Mike McCarthy issue. Some of this is a Dak Prescott issue. Similar to what we just talked about with Sam Darnold collapsing in the big spot. Dak Prescott in the playoffs, man, he regresses. He falls off, and it has to penalize these guys that play the most important position in the sport. Number 13, I got Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy, again, the guys in this good tier, it would take the perfect circumstances for them to make the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy did have that 2 years ago. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, Jawan Jennings, all pro, Trent Williams, a decent offensive line, a defense that was performing well with Bosa, Warner, Ward, etc. You guys get it. The 49ers roster 2 years ago was absolutely loaded. Going into this year, injuries to Ayuk, Debo banged up, McCaffrey hurt, the offensive line not as strong, some injuries on the defense. Players on that team had to deal with deaths in their family that I couldn't believe. You went from everything going right and having a fantastic roster to everything going wrong. And then they missed the playoffs. I think truthfully where Brock Purdy lies is somewhere in the middle, and he's the 13th best quarterback. You put a good team around him. His mobility, I thought that was really, really strong in the playoffs. Decision making is absolutely fine. It's the best version of what, Shanahan wants with a low draft guy, but a guy who's smart enough to run the offense and can scramble when he needs to. That is Brock Purdy. He's the definition of a good quarterback. And with a good quarterback in San Francisco, usually you make the playoffs. Last year was just an off year. And as well in this tier to round it out, number 12, Baker Mayfield. Bake show since he's gotten to Tampa, back-to-back 4,000 plus passing yard seasons. He had a 4,500 this year with 40 plus touchdowns. Probably the best year that Baker Mayfield will ever have as an NFL quarterback. He's won this division now back-to-back years. It's the NFC South, so it's like, yeah, he's won the division back-to-back years, but it's kind of a crappy division. But at the end of the day, you can't deny it. Baker Mayfield has been absolutely balling out. Similar to what I said to Bo Nix, I just don't think you get enough of those special plays from Baker to really elevate. I think that was the main difference between the Buccaneers and the Commanders when they played in the playoffs. Jaden Daniels was able to elevate his team just a little bit more than Baker Mayfield was on that day, and that's why they left with the win. Baker's good, but I think there is a ceiling to where you can go with him. Will consistently be in the playoff mix, and maybe one day we'll end up in an NFC Championship game. But winning the Super Bowl, I just don't see it. Before we move into the great tier, I want to preface something here. Every quarterback that you see listed on these tier lists at this point in time, I do not believe at their current play will be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Can they move up this tier list and then become a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Absolutely. But if what we've seen from them is what we're just going to get, I don't think any of them will win a Super Bowl. I think it is these next 11 guys that will be winning and hoisting Lombardis for the next decade in the NFL. That's just kind of the way that I see things playing out here. You have to be a great quarterback to win at the highest level. If not, it has to be kind of just the perfect situation. But as the NFL, progresses more towards offense and quarterback friendly, it becomes more important to have a really, really high level one of those guys. Before we get to the great tier, you like the video, hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe to the channel if you love the NFL. Starting off this great tier, the number 11 quarterback on my tier list is Jordan Love. And, me and Jordan Love, we got a love-hate relationship here because I really love some of Jordan Love's athletic abilities and intangibles. He's mobile enough. He's got good arm talent. The athleticism is there. The decision-making, though. He was the least sacked quarterback in the NFL this past year. And you would say that's a great big up to the offensive line. And while it may be, it also goes to show Jordan Love, when he feels pressure, he's willing to just let that thing loose. My problem with Jordan Love is he's good for an interception a game, good for a turnover a game. He had a couple stretches in the second half of this year where he went a month without one in a game, and it was like, hey, that's really good. But in the big spots, it feels like this guy is due for a turnover each and every game. He's due for one, what are you doing decision. And in the NFL, especially when we're talking about the great quarterbacks, we're talking about inches, not miles. And I have to give credit to the guys who I know will protect the ball. Jordan Love, I don't know if he will, but if he can consistently start to protect the ball, it's the same thing we said about Josh Allen for a long time. If he can consistently take care of the ball, the sky is absolutely the limit for Jordan Love. I think the Packers should get him an alpha wide receiver 1, and that will do wonders for his career. I truthfully do. Next, I have Jared Goff. Jared Goff, I think, is the 10th best quarterback in football, right there at the top 10 marker. One of the few true pocket passers left in the NFL, and he's susceptible to some bad games. We saw it versus Washington. We saw it versus Houston this year. But at the end of the day, Jared Goff, the past 4 years, has led a top 5 offense in the NFL. Yes, Detroit has a ton of weapons and great running backs, but Jared Goff is the quarterback. He is the engine, the conductor of the train, whatever analogy you prefer. He is the guy. 4,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, high-level offense, high-level passer rating. What was like a 111 passer rating on the year? Jared Goff is still really, really solid and can lead a great team. And if Detroit was healthy, we could very well be talking about them as the Super Bowl champions at this point in time. I do believe that. Matt Stafford, I got him at number 9. Matt Stafford, in terms of best thrower of the football in the NFL, this guy's top 5. Obviously that's not all that goes into playing the quarterback position, which is why I have him at 9. Some of the limitations in rushing and athleticism and play extending, that's here for Stafford. But when it comes to pre-snap diagnosis and, tough passes, strong arm, Stafford can sling the rock with the best of them. You go back to that playoff game versus Philly, in the snow, tough conditions, down 2 scores. That pass to Puka Nacua was absolutely disgusting. Matt Stafford can still absolutely ball. He is one of few. I think we're looking at, what is it right now? Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Are those the only 5 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in the NFL? I think there's Joe Flacco, 6. But when you talk about Flacco, Wilson, Rodgers, those guys are past their prime. Guys that are in their prime, and Stafford's not really in his prime, but guys that are still competing at a high level, it's him, Hurts, and Mahomes. Those are your recent Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Stafford puts some respect on his name still. At number 8, I got Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has all the athletic abilities you'd want. If you were to build a quarterback in a lab, it would look something like Justin Herbert and or Josh Allen. The size is there. The arm strength is there. Herbert, sneaky mobile guy. But I am going to say this. I have him at 8 because we have to start penalizing Herbert for choking and just kind of shitting the bed in the biggest games. His 2 playoff games The first one to Trevor Lawrence blows a 4-score lead. You could blame Brandon Staley for some of that, but the quarterback's got to eat blowing a 4-score lead in the second half of a playoff game. This year versus Houston, the guy has more interceptions in that playoff game than he had all season long. The moment got big for him. That's just the truth of the matter. I'm not here to say that Justin Herbert can't perform in the big games. I'm an Oregon fan, so even though I got my Eagles fandom, I'm rooting for Herbert. Believe you me. But you got to call a spade a spade. In the two biggest games, he shit the bed. When you're making $50+ million a year, that's got to be held against you in some capacity. Number 7, C.J. Stroud. Kind of the exact opposite of Herbert, right? The guy just came in the league last year. He's already got 2 division titles, 2 playoff wins. And everybody talks about the pressure that the Eagles got on Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's the kind of pressure C.J. Stroud deals with day in and day out. And Diggs and Tank Dell were injured this year. Nico Collins missed some time, so not all of his weapons were ever healthy at the same time, plus a bad offensive line. Still won a division, AFC South, so it's a little weaker, so you could put maybe an asterisk by it, but hey, he won his division, and then he won a playoff game against Justin Herbert head-to-head, where Herbert's team was favored to win. People thought that Herbert had the better team. Stroud went out there and won, really showed off his legs in that matchup. The rushing ability was there. His only 2 playoff losses are to the 1 seeds in the AFC each year. Went to Arrowhead, lost in a competitive game. Went to Baltimore, lost in not so competitive of a game. But I think if you can get Stroud a decent offensive line and his weapons stay healthy, Super Bowl is certainly the ceiling for him. And next in the great category at the 6th spot, I got Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels, the greatest rookie quarterback season of all time, in my opinion. I'll just say it. I think that he plays the game at such a great level. I don't know if you guys have heard about the VR training that he does in like 1.5 or 1.25x speed, but you could see that it really works. When Jayden's out there, he has a Lamar Jackson-esque effect where it feels like he's moving in slower motion than everybody else. He really just controls the game like a master point guard out there, but he is almost a better version of what you would have wanted Lamar to be coming out of college, right? He's not as mobile as Lamar. Lamar is the greatest rushing quarterback of all time, and Jayden's not really exploding for those runs that Lamar was, but he has a much better arm than Lamar did coming out of college. The deep ball accuracy, it is there. The decision making, it is there. The leadership, it is there. Jayden Daniels got his team to the NFC Championship in year 1, a team in the Commanders who had no business being in an NFC Championship. Jayden Daniels got them there. Winning isn't fully a quarterback stat, but as you guys have seen, it's something I value. Most important position on the field, and all the best ones seem to keep on winning. Next, the elite category. Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has earned the spot of being a top 5 quarterback in the sport. I think he is number 5. I think he is elite. At the end of the day, he wins. And he always shows up in the biggest spots. And I think that is the best thing you could say about Jalen Hurts. He has the clutch factor. He has ice in his veins. What are his 3 best games ever? The Super Bowl 2 years ago where they lost to the Chiefs. The Super Bowl this year where they beat the Chiefs. And the NFC Championship game against Washington. Those are Jalen Hurts' 3 best games. All coming on the biggest stage where the lights were the brightest. He has the reverse of what I was talking about with Herbert and Darnold. When the lights get bright, this guy gets better. And he is a dual threat quarterback. People forget, but that game versus the Rams, how did that open up? A 50-yard rushing touchdown from Jalen Hurts. And I know people don't like the tush push or the brotherly shove or whatever you want to call it, but I watched the Chiefs stuff it when Josh Allen did it time and time again. That doesn't happen to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. He is a weapon with that tush push, with that brotherly shove. You get to the 1-yard line and it's a guaranteed touchdown. He is great accuracy on deep balls down the sideline. I wish his processing was a little better. He's not exactly a perfect player, but he wins at a high clip. 2 14-win seasons in his first 4 years, 4 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl win. And the only 2 other guys have those 2 14-win seasons since the year 2000, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. So pretty elite company. Number 4, I still got Joe Burrow. Listen, Joe Burrow behind that offensive line, 4,900 passing yards in a 43-9 touchdown to interception ratio. The man was on an absolute heater this year performance-wise. It didn't result in wins, and this is where I say that wins aren't the be-all, end-all for quarterbacks, because if they were, Burrow would have to be down in that starter to Matt tier. But we all know that it's not Burrow's fault that the Bengals are a bottom 5 run organization in the sport. Burrow absolutely slings the rock. I do have him lower than Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh Allen, of course, just because winning is something. Winning has to be some version of a deal breaker. When you have Mahomes, who's been to Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and Lamar and Josh Allen were in the last 2 AFC championships, and Joe Burrow missed the playoffs, yeah, that's going to penalize him here. But we all know that Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, is absolutely excellent. And Burrow and Hurts, the only 2 active quarterbacks right now to beat Patrick Mahomes in a playoff spot. That's some elite stuff right there. Number 3, I got Josh Allen. And I know some people are going to be mad about this. He's the current MVP, and I think it's fine that he won the award. I'm not mad at it. Josh Allen, like I said, if you could build a quarterback in a lab, what would he look like? It's probably Josh Allen. The guy's an absolute freak. Great size, a cannon of an arm, can run like a freaking gazelle through the field. An absolute stud of a player. Just can't beat Mahomes. And listen, if that's your biggest flaw, you're in a pretty good spot. Josh Allen, number 3. I do take Lamar over him. And the reason that I have Lamar over Josh Allen is pretty simple. I think if you just plopped these guys on a team and you told me that they were going to get bums to play with, Lamar is more of an offense than Josh Allen. Lamar this year also had a better statistical year than Josh Allen. A 4,000-yard passer, 40-plus touchdowns, a 119 passer rating, led the NFL. The guy is an absolute stud in the regular season. The biggest flaw in Lamar is his worst game every year comes in the playoffs. But if we were judging quarterbacks just solely based on the regular season, Lamar would be viewed as better than Patrick Mahomes. But since we don't, he's not. But I still got him at number 2 because at the end of the day, him and Josh Allen have gone to the same place, the AFC Championship, and that's it. And Lamar has an additional MVP and has been more consistently a high-level producer in the regular season than Josh Allen. Number 1, though, it's still Patty Mahomes. Don't let anybody fool you. Even though that this Super Bowl was not a good performance from Patrick Mahomes, and I would argue it was the worst game of his career, the lights were on the brightest, and he absolutely stunk up the place. The guy has still been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. The guy has still won 3 of the last 6 Super Bowls. The guy is still not 30 yet and has 3 rings. The guy is an absolute beast. Great arm talent, throw on the run, it's there. The ability to extend plays, make a play, make any throw. Patrick Mahomes can do it. No look, eyes closed, behind the back. We've seen it all from this guy at this point in time. And his running ability, it's up there with some of the higher level rushers in the NFL. He doesn't do it as often, but man, when Patrick Mahomes needs to scramble and pick up 7 yards, you damn sure know he's getting 8. The guy behind him won't be able to catch him until he gets to where he's going. Patty Mahomes is still, no doubt, in my opinion, the best quarterback in all of football. But those are just my thoughts on the current state of NFL quarterbacks. Be sure to drop yours in the comment section down below. You're probably not going to agree with everything that I said, even though, in my opinion, this was the perfect tier list. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel and you love football, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Catch you guys next time. Peace.